Hello and welcome to the Lyon Show. I'm your host, your favorite business coach, Robert Lyon. Today we have the great that was sounding all cool, man. I know, man. Oh shit. We'll edit that out. But yeah, today we have the great privilege of talking to Kevyn Rustici. He's an awesome guy. He's a strategy consultant. So why don't you introduce yourself and just kind of tell everybody kind of who you are and what you're up to?
Yeah, Robert, thanks again for having me. My name is, like you mentioned, Kevyn Rustici. I work as an HR technology and strategy consultant and really focus on helping organizations kind of get through these challenging times during the pandemic and bring them up to speed on what the new world of work looks like. And more importantly, kind of strengthen those relationships between finance and HR within these organizations to drive best people practices. And making organizations a little bit more data driven when it comes to their largest business expense, which is usually their people and all people related expenses like benefits, tax, etc. So really excited to be here with you and share any insights to you and your team as well as your listeners.
Yeah, man. So explain it to me like I'm five, man. So you have like a big company that needs like a whole bunch of employees, and then you find them, or do you train them, or you hire them? So what do you do exactly?
So in actuality, is I'm going to these companies that are either in rapid growth mode, downsizing mode. They might be going through a merger or acquisition, but really working with organizations. I focus on organizations in the 150 to 1,000 space, all different industries. But usually a lot of these organizations are set in the dark ages when it comes to their people, their process, as well as their technology. So it's really kind of peeling back that multi-layered onion, if you will, and really understanding like, what is the process of today? How are you onboarding an employee? How are you even finding employees today in this competitive labor market? What types of strategies are you applying to organically attract a new labor pool? All those types of things. So the businesses already pretty much are established. They have kind of their view of HR and the view of their people. One of the best things to really ask is what type of culture they're trying to create within the organization. And then really working backwards is like find a desired end state. A lot of organizations want to streamline as much as possible. They want to leverage technology in a smarter way because we're paying these HR professionals and a lot of finance executives don't really understand the value of HR and how they can actually add to the bottom line of the organization. So I really go in there and kind of coach, but more importantly, just listen and ask questions to really understand what it is that I can do and how I can help support the organization moving forward.
That's cool, man. How do you determine like the rock stars from like the broke people?
Oh, very quickly, dude. Very quickly. I'm glad you asked that. I mean, it's just one of those things. Is like I can tell you some organizations of like 700 employees are run probably as poorly as a small like startup company because it's just they've never set the right foundation in order to build off of. And then there's some companies like in the 100 employee space that are run like probably some of the greatest companies I've ever seen and probably should be publicly traded based off of. But it all starts and ends with the leader, right? I think everything kind of pushes down those initiatives from the top down. And I think organizations that are trying to make change at the bottom and feed up and get other managers on board just really miss the mark in most cases if the leaders aren't on board. So it's one of the questions that I always ask is like, are you so lucky to have your employees working for you, or do you feel like your employees are just so lucky to be working for you specifically? It's kind of that reverse psychology as to how are you refer to your people? Are they individuals? Are they people? Or do you refer to them as bodies or it tells you very quickly on how important their people are to their success, or if it's an ego thing and they feel like it's only them and that's why the company is successful.
Yeah. This is kind of random, but like, so I've been an entrepreneur for like 10 years now, but sometimes I just hit fuck it and I get pissed and I go and apply for like jobs that I could never, ever get just to see what happens. I'll be the CEO of Staples and I'll like
fire away, baby.
Fire away. But I mean, how do you think like, because I feel like people send a lot of emails and nobody ever reads emails for your applications anymore. Like you got to really get someone on the phone or get someone who's actually actively seeking help. Like, I mean, a lot of people want a good job, but do you have any tips for people that like could maybe boost themselves up and go after like actually getting a job at a nice place? Like, what do you think people should do?
Hey man, it's I think Robert, you're spot on with your previous life, right? Like being on the marketing side. At the end of the day, it's how well you're marketing yourself as a gainfully employed or potentially employed and the value that you can bring to that organization. Yeah. I think a lot of times right now, because of how competitive it is, a lot of these institutions and organizations are just getting flooded with resumes. To expect a human to really go through and take the time necessary to review a resume and really understand who that person is and what makes them tick is a challenge and almost like a large lift in and of itself. So then everybody starts playing the blame game on the technology from an ATS perspective. There's people that are excellent resume writers. I've spent money on a leadership coach. I've done all these things. I think at the end of the day, what we know from marketing is that it's all about who you know, not really what you know in most situations, to at least get your foot in the door to have those conversations. So networking like you and I do on a daily practice is a great place to start, especially trying to network with some of the people that may be in the organizations that we admire and want to be a part of.
That's pretty cool. So as far as like strategy consulting, what intrigues you about that, or how'd that kind of start?
Oh, dude, I got to be honest. I never thought I would ever be interested in HR. Literally, never. I mean, you said HR, I was like, what's that? Like, I never even once for a single second thought I would ever be interested. But the more I started to learn, I'll honestly tell you, I was at a conscious capitalism event, and they focused on B Corps. And they focused on B Corps and kind of compared them over the last 20 years on their performance of like the S&P 500. And actually, I believe the stat was, and don't quote me on it, but I believe it was in the range of like 15 to 20% higher than our stereotypical S&P 500 publicly traded companies. These B Corps were outperforming them. And I went back, I was like, why, right? Like they're probably spending more money on their employees. They're probably focused more on their environmental initiatives, which was probably more expensive. How are they getting there? And without like, is the profits increasing? Like where I could not put two and two together. And then when I started really diving into the analytics piece and really started to see that how important your people were and treating them like individuals and promoting their success and kind of creating that community, that inclusive culture that a lot of companies are seeking, that was why they were more successful. They had happy employees. They had happy customers because the employees were happy and felt like they were part of the greater mission of the organization. And it really just dawned on me like, okay, there's a better way to do things and there's a better way to approach business, and not everything has to be about the dollar, right? And I thought the missing link really was in that workforce analytics, Robert, was allowing HR to now talk in numbers, where previously they were kind of just talking in terms and obviously compliance and things like that. And a lot of organizations still see them as glorified party planners. And it's just not the right way to view HR, because they are such an integral part of an organization. And those that have figured out that years ago and before the pandemic are really reaping the benefits right now, because they don't have the high turnover. They're not really struggling to find talent because talent is seeking to work for them. So that's really where I got kind of, I say bit by the data bug. It was really like, holy cow, it was very eye opening. It was like, man, we can actually not be shitty people and still take care of everybody else and have a wonderful opportunity to grow as a business, as a whole, as a team.
Yeah. It is really kind of interesting just to think about these big businesses. Cause I mean, I'm not trying to say anything bad, but a lot of the ways that most businesses scale is they just try and get people to do as much work for as little pay as possible. You know what I mean? So you got to be able to reinvent the wheel by treating people like people, and still getting the job done. And then, like basically, like you said, have talent come work for you. And people, I mean, like I said, whenever I've applied to these random jobs, I always wind up getting like the last two, and then somebody else gets the job. And I'm like, oh, man, why did I waste all my time?
Go through the whole interview process.
Yeah, I do it, man. I think it's fun. I've learned YouTube ads in like a week because I wanted to work with this big marketing company, and I had never done it. And so I still got that skill out of it, but it was like, I don't know. I was just bullshitting the whole time. I'm like, oh, I'm a YouTube expert. I know everything about these things. And
oh, that's awesome.
I just challenge myself. But yeah, no, it's just good to be needed, I guess. And it's good to be in a good company. So I think you're doing cool stuff, man.
It's just raising that overall awareness.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know. I keep talking to these people that have only made like $25,000 a year for the past like 4 years. And I just don't know how anybody's living in America doing stuff like that. Like, it's crazy. Especially like in New York. Imagine, how could you live off that? What would you do?
Never. You might make a couple months, if that. Well, the taxes will probably take about 90% of that in taxes anyway, so it's okay.
I know, it's wild though. But yeah, people need more opportunities, and people need to, basically pay for their family.
I saw that guy at like Gravity Payments. That guy was like one of the most inspirational CEOs, and I saw that story before I even got into HR, but it made so much sense to me. He was like, why do I need to be making all this money when I have limited contributions to the organization. Was this my idea? Yes. But if I could have the greatest idea in the world that nobody ever heard of if I don't have people. So he actually took a pay cut and paid everybody $100,000 because he felt like that was a suitable income where people felt comfortable and secured. And I think he understood the importance of having your employees feel like the employer actually cares about you and your well-being. And then I think he's reaped the benefits of a more engaged, more inclusive, and overall productive workforce, because when they know that their employer cares about them, they're going to show up every single day and give it 110% no matter what. When they don't feel like that is being reciprocated, I feel like that's when people are like, I don't owe this place anything, and I'm going to jump at the first job offer that I get because I can't wait to get out of here. So, and again, if people are so focused on how they're going to put food on their table, you can't tell me that they're bringing their A game every day to their job. And obviously then that starts having an impact on your customer satisfaction, your customer retention, all that other stuff that kind of is that snowball effect.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't had a job in like 10 years. I basically make my own jobs at this point. So I'm just remembering, man, like people, they say like the most addictive thing is like a recurring paycheck or whatever from a job. You know, it's just like, just interesting to think about it. Cause then you settle, you get it in, but I mean, people need work, obviously. People need a skill. They need to feel like they're doing stuff, but it's like, what's the balance between like getting people that are actually going to show up and are motivated to do a job? You know, I don't know.
Oh, definitely. Well, I think too, in the United States, we're kind of a slave to the benefits, right? A lot of people work because they have benefits. Like if you took that element out of it, how many people would be doing more on their own, right? If people didn't feel like they needed benefits or they needed their employer to help support them from a benefits perspective, what would our economy look like? What would our communities look like? Would we have a lot of smaller businesses? I don't know. So that's another thing that I always think about too, is like sometimes like, so I think it's awesome the last 10 years that you haven't, because I think that keeps a lot of people in a company longer than what they want to be sometimes too,
right?
Because
it's like, good to have an exit strategy, right? Otherwise you're just like doing the same thing over and over in your whole life. It's just like, what happened? You know,
I'm 65 and they're throwing me a retirement, but I swear I was going to leave this company.
No, done, man. Oh yeah, well, that's funny. So what I've been asking everybody is on the show is like, what motivates you? Like what really gets you pumped, and what excites you?
Yeah, I love this question. So I will be honest, like, and it's weird, right? It's what motivates me is really generally helping others, like in whatever capacity that I possibly can. Like, so during the pandemic, when people were kind of out of work and I saw job postings just on LinkedIn by happenstance, I was just like, well, I saw you were looking for this. Here's a job I saw. I'm not sure if you're interested. Oh, by the way, I also know the person in HR. I'd be happy to connect you. Oh. Same thing in like business and technology. Like at the end of the day, I had a sales call today, and talking to the lady, and the technology that she had was perfectly fine for what their needs were. And I said, look, I can't really help you. I said, you're in a good spot. But I think when you approach, what helps fuel me. And when you approach that and you're thinking about somebody else other than yourself in sales, it just helps kind of that whole conversation. That's why I focus on being more consultative, because at the end of the day, it's not about me, it's about them. And I'm there to listen to them, understand their frustrations, their pain, and how I can improve that day-to-day life that they're experiencing. And it's probably back to my roots. And I initially wanted to get into healthcare. I have been in nothing even close, remotely close to using my degree in biology. But at the end of the day, the reason I was interested in healthcare is really developing those relationships with people and seeing that you can improve them. They come in broken, you fix them, and then you see them walk out the door. And that's really what I really loved about healthcare. And I had to find another crooked path to what I'm doing today, but I apply the same mentality, and it's helped me. And it's helped a lot of other people. And I think I probably connect with people on a different level than most.
That's cool, man. You think your like superpower is if somebody needs a job, you can get them a job?
Like, maybe I'll throw that. I haven't seen that in any cartoon books or comic books yet, but maybe that's a superpower in today's day and age in this war for talent.
Yeah, for sure, man. That's funny. You got any like cool success stories or things that have gotten you real excited lately?
Man, I think right now it's just like seeing how we're coming together as a community. I think like just like this, like you're in Arizona today, and I'm in Rochester, New York. Like before this, how many people were comfortable with having meetings like this? And I think that it's getting everybody a little bit more cultured, right? And meeting new people and finding more common ground than we ever had before, because I think we're hungry. We're hungry to make these connections with people. And I'll be honest, during the pandemic, during those darkest days where we couldn't leave our house, man, I would kill to have a conversation with someone. And that's why I was like motivated to network. I was like, I love my wife, but this is, I can go crazy, to get stir crazy a little bit. And I've really seen the community come together, not only locally, but it seems nationally. And I mean, that's probably harder for me to say because it's just kind of through that narrow lens of LinkedIn. But I've really just seen people kind of go an extra mile and start to spread more kindness than I think we were before. And I think that's probably because we're ready to get back and socialize. I think people are just so hungry for that.
Right. It's going to be pretty wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, basically, if you think of anything else like that could really give the listeners some success, do you have any tips that, maybe will help people just do more with their lives?
Yeah. I think too is like stepping outside your comfort zone. Somebody told me that during the pandemic, and to do a podcast with you right now is well outside my comfort zone. Then the mutual connection that we had was my first podcast, and I was like, honestly, dude, I don't even know what I'll talk about. I don't even know if people want to listen to me. Like, I guess I'll do it, kind of thing. And once I did it, and once you got out of the comfort zone, you enter in that, like they dub it as the learning zone, right? And it really is, because then once you do that and you get comfortable with that change and that uncomfortable feeling, like what else is possible? And then I got hungry for like workforce analytics, and then I got hungry for producing my own content and just sharing my ideas and visions. And at the end of the day, it's like just challenge yourself and step outside that comfort zone, because that's really where I think the fun happens. I think when we kind of get into the routine of the day to day, it's like life passes you by, and you don't realize what a miracle every day is. You're always focused on Friday. Like, get me to Friday. I just need the weekend. Yeah. And that's really what I think I've learned the most, and was something that I hope your listeners and have fun, I think is the other thing that everybody says, is like really, really have fun and do what you love and do what you enjoy, and go out and meet new people.
Right. Get out of your comfort zone and have fun doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess another question I got is like, do you have any tips for networking that you found like good success? Because I talk to so many people, but I want to figure out how I can, like, I don't know, organize it or just like stay in contact with people longer. It's like it's a skill, and I don't have it necessarily.
Yeah, man. It's funny that you asked this, because I'm working with a few buddies of mine, and we're starting this group. It's like a young professionals group, but it was very important for us to have both business, but also community impact. So it's called Community Impactors. It's great, but a lot of people are the kids fresh out of college, right? They don't have a network. They don't understand how to grow a network. So what we're really doing is breaking it down to bite-sized pieces, right? Those individual Lego blocks as to how to build the right networking like skills. A lot of people, I don't know about, and you can probably share on your networking calls and meetings, is that sometimes people suck the air out of the room, right? They talk the whole time, and it's like they talk 95% of the time and let the other person talk 5%. Odds are that networking is probably not going anywhere, because that person is like, Jesus, that guy didn't even know what I did. Like, how do I help that person? But I would say, so what we broke it down to is really understanding your business, the key decision makers that you're looking to speak to, how you can help others, like, is it industry, is it location, is it geography, and then getting two people linked up that share similar values and similar ideas, or even insights within that industry. Mm-hmm. But I think to give you the quickest tip to the greatest networking is listening, writing things down, and really being selfless in networking. Because I think a lot of times it's like you're having that Mexican standoff, and you're just like, who's going to blink first? And to be honest, I mean, to send a message to somebody that you know well, and you trust that individual, and you've developed that trust within that 30 minutes or 45 minutes or an hour, whatever you're given, it starts to, and then you start to feel good like that. You almost feel like you're paying it forward. And also I tell people, don't go in with any expectations, because you'll feel like people are going to let you down. And then that's just another stressor that you don't really need in your life either.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. My thing is now I basically got a situation where like I could be making money every second almost. It's kind of weird. Yeah. So then when people really,
that's a nice problem to have.
I know, man, it's stupid. But then people want my help for free, and then they want it for money. And it's like, how do I balance like the dealing with, like, because I want to help people, like I've been really broke before. And so like, if I can help people, that's awesome. But at the same time, I'm taking away from my business whenever I'm doing that. So I'm just trying to find a balance of healthy networking. And then also maybe I should just talk with like the CEOs and like the super rich people, but then I feel like a dick and I don't want to talk to those people all the time. You know what I mean?
Sometimes you don't relate with them, but I think like you said, I think the important thing is finding that balance. And I think a lot of people are challenged to find that balance, but I think more people in a working like the 9-to-5 jobs right now, because of the pandemic, because they were working from home, really identify what's important to themselves. And I see us moving more and in a different direction than what that preconceived American dream was sold to us, right? Yeah. I see people wanting more family time, or I want to get to my son's soccer game. I want to get to my daughter's dance recital or softball game. Like, I think people want that because now that they've tasted it, they understand that it is possible, and finding that our careers are not what define us as individuals. They help us, but they don't define us as who we are as people.
How do you think these big companies are dealing with either hiring VAs or hiring real people? I mean, is it getting harder for the American people to get a job where you can just hire from overseas?
I definitely think, I think we're starting to see a push, right? I read a stat, 42% of manufacturers are going to be home shoring a lot of the things that they were previously offshoring from a manufacturing perspective. I think too is like the made in America now is cool again, right? I mean, you and I through our childhood went through, more expensive, but it's hopefully a more higher quality product, and you know that you're supporting our local economy and national economy. I can't tell you, when I grew up, I think everything had that made in China, made in everywhere, other than the United States. It was like rare. It was like, holy cow, this is actually made in the United States. Right. And I think now there's almost like a pride behind that, which is great. I think organizations are really struggling though, because especially corporate, the smarter corporations like out in Silicon Valley, like the Googles, the Facebooks, they quickly understood before the pandemic that work from home thing was not temporary. They knew that could give them a competitive edge if they were one of the first organizations to encourage a work from home environment. And now we're starting to see like ridiculous, like paid family, when somebody has a baby, like they'll give individuals like months off, which is great. And I think it really is leveling or equaling the balance in work and in life, and understanding like, okay, during the most important moments of a baby or infant's life is probably within the first couple of weeks of that baby's life. Like, it's probably not the best idea to rip the mother away from that baby and then bring her back to work, because it's now where you got to think again, back to your original point, that people are just not numbers on a page anymore. They're actually living, breathing individuals. And the second we start to see businesses as living, breathing organisms, I think it just changes our mindset and our approach.
Yeah. Well, that's all pretty wild, man. So yeah, why don't you tell everybody like the best ways to get in contact with you and like where to find you on social media?
Yeah, definitely. I am sadly, I'm going against the grain as most millennials. I am not on Instagram, Facebook, any of that. I am only on LinkedIn. So find me on LinkedIn. I'll be more than happy. I think it's like I spell my name with a Y. Also, full disclosure, I blame my mother wholeheartedly for that. I think she was a little doped up on pain meds at the time that she was signing off on that birth certificate and was like, "How do you spell Kevin? Is it with a Y?" Yeah, sure, okay. Yeah, that's what she told me my whole life, Robert. I don't know how unique I feel, but
you're unique just like everyone else.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I was talking to Ben today, and he was like, "You know what's funny is like everybody talks about themselves so much, and enough about me. What do you think about me?" Like, I
like that. That's a good one.
Me too. I was like, dude, that was a great way to put
it. I love it, dude. Yeah, so we'll put that in the description down below. It's been great talking to you, man. Do you have any other last thoughts maybe before we wrap it up?
Not at all, man. I just encourage everybody else to, if they have the opportunity to jump on your show, step out that comfort zone. I think they'll really enjoy kind of what life brings them thereafter. So this has been an awesome opportunity, Robert. I just want to say thank you.
No problem, man. Thanks everybody for listening. Be sure to like, subscribe, share with a friend. I'm sure you learned something cool. Go get those jobs, man. Make something happen. Talk to you guys later. Bye.
Make that money every day like Robert.